Theology. Oh, I know him. Oh, cool. Click, okay? That's important. In my candidate boot camp, if you ever get a chance, my partners and I do a 2-day candidate boot camp. We've got candidates and campaign managers, and there are captains from 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning to 6 o'clock on a Sunday night. We give them homework overnight on Saturday. And we put them through a lot of hands-on drills. And one of the things that we preach, we try to get prospective candidates at this point in an election cycle, a year before you're even going to take out nominating papers. Because and I mentioned it in my book, again, cheap plug, I mentioned in the book how to become known before anybody even knows you're a candidate, and that's going to be crucial. What we preach in our campaign school is, think about this, a nobody can't challenge a somebody. A nobody can't challenge a somebody. Who the hell are these arrogant people who have done nothing in their communities? But I'm going to run for office. Yeah, I'm a decent fireman. I'm a good libertarian. God, the voters going to look at them, and here comes Senator Schmuck. But he's senator. He's got a name. He's somebody. He may not be much, but he's got a name. So one of the things that we teach is get involved in the community in non-political projects at least 18 to 24 months in advance of when you're going to take out your candidacy papers. Don't let anybody know you're a candidate. You're going to become a civic leader. You're going to get your name recognition. I get a couple good examples. I love this one. We got a guy elected to the state legislature in a Democrat district, no less. He knocked off an incumbent, local businessman. The city decided, because of budget tightness, that they were going to cancel the annual 4th of July fireworks on the riverfront. Decided, well, things are tight, we got to cut services, we can't justify using public money for the fireworks. So, however, if there's local volunteers want to go out and raise money, if we reach the right revenue level, we'll give all the permits. So this guy's got his eye on a legislative run 18 months down the line. Local businessman in real estate. He immediately forms Citizens to Save Fireworks. Obviously, when you form a group, who's the chairman of the group? You are, right? So now he's got the standing to go to the media. Hi, I'm Doug Damon. I'm the chair of Citizens to Save Fireworks. Doesn't look like a candidate yet. He's a local real estate man. He goes out and he starts raising money, small doses at a time. Goes to the Rotaries, the Kiwanis. He gets all these businessmen to, 25 here, $100 there. And he's in the paper every other week. Doug Damon, chair of Citizens to Save Fireworks, announced the latest donors to saving fireworks are. It's now, he's getting publicity every other week. Comes closer to the 4th of July, and he's reaching goal. He goes to the city council. He's got the check to present. Man, he's the hero of the community. He's on television, the man that saved the fireworks. About a month after 4th of July, he emerged as a candidate for state legislature. You see what I mean? A nobody can't challenge a somebody. So you make yourself somebody, and it's not because you got the right libertarian viewpoints. You're involved in the community in a non-threatening way. And there's a lot of ways to do that. One of my favorites, she's a sweetheart. We got a woman elected to a state legislative seat. She's a former Air Force officer, tremendous physical fitness. And she runs every morning, right? So she's also active on the school board, city council, so people already knew her. But she's going to go out every morning jogging. It's non-political. There's no issues involved in this. She gets a big t-shirt that reads, Nikki Farnham running for you. And every morning she goes to a different neighborhood to do her morning run. And she greets people. She stands and plays, hi, how are you? Well, it's good to meet you. I'm Nikki Farnham. She's getting her name known. And then when there was a race for the cure for the Susan Komen Foundation, she's on TV leading the race, and she wore that then as a candidate. So there's a lot of ways to do it. But understand that it is important. And the delicate balancing act for a quality liberty Republican is to learn how to be a political schizophrenic. You've got to keep your core supporters happy ideologically while reaching out to the massive voters on a more personal, visceral, retail political level. Now, a major error that ideological candidates make is they concentrate on winning a primary. Ideological contrast can be a factor there, but then they fail to shift gears into a general election mode. And that's dangerous, and it leads to crashing defeats. And that sets back our movement as the philosophical candidates look like pariahs to the Republican Party because they're such losers. It is important, again, cheap plug in the book, I go through a chapter about how to do a business plan for a campaign. You wouldn't go start a business without a business plan, would you? And you're going to set milestones for certain revenue requirements and profit things to know where, keep going to throw in the towel. Political candidates should start working 24 months in advance of election day and have a business plan with certain levels, plateaus, fundraising goals, and what have you. But I urge very strongly, even if you may not stand a chance in the primary, you do the business plan through election day in November, and you follow through on it that way. Okay? And a lot of our candidates don't. And as I pointed out, we, people like us, we're too involved. We're too close to politics. We tend to forget that the vast majority of the electorate isn't paying any attention to us at all. I think Ron Schmidt, the chair of the political science department at the University of Southern Maine, put it well. The people who show up in primaries tend to be the very, very motivated and usually committed to one candidate or another. That's not necessarily the people who show up on election day in November. So think about that. Regrettably, I all too often see the libertarian-leaning candidates emerge from a primary and they get cocky. They think they won solely because of ideology. But to win office, it's mandatory that right after that primary, you shift gears, concentrate on the general election appeal to that broad electorate that's not paying any attention to you. And that means hard for we committed people to think. You got to pull the reins on the hardcore ideology, and you've got to address, what's Rush Limbaugh's phrase, the uninformed voters. You've got to address the voters in terms which are not going to raise red flags or scare them. Remember, people don't like to be preached at. They don't like a candidate who comes across with a, I know more than you, listen to me. They want to be spoken to on terms that relate to them. And that means shaping our philosophy on a personal level, not the broad philosophical level. We can't always think of being politically correct. We've got to think of what's going to win votes without selling out on our values. Now let's face it, the key to winning an election in November is to hold 90% of your party base and grab the majority of the independent voters who do not enroll by a political party. That's going to vary by states. I know every state is different. In my state, in Maine, Republicans are the third party. The largest group of registered voters are the unenrolled. They control 35% of the vote in my state. Democrats have 27% of the voter registrations. And Republicans come along third. I think we're at 24%. And bless their hearts, the Green Party has permanent ballot status because they always manage to get at least 5% of the vote in Maine elections. And Maine says any third party that can get 5% of the vote in a presidential or gubernatorial election gets to be on the ballot as a permanent ballot through the next election until they fall below the 5% threshold. They don't have to go through that onerous petition process. Well, Who are those independent voters? You'd be surprised. We can reach them if we don't scare them. Linda Killian of the Woodrow Wilson School of Public Policy at Princeton University did some research, and she put them into 5 categories, and she gave them cutesy labels, and I'll read her labels. But now listen to this carefully and think about who you need to reach to win an election. She calls the first category NPR Republicans. She says they are fiscally conservative and socially moderate. They would rather be unenrolled because they think the GOP is too controlled by the religious right. She says the next group of unenrolled voters, in other words, declines to state political party and registers to vote, she calls them America First Democrats. She says they're blue-collar patriots, probably have a family member in the military, and they're socially conservative. 25 years ago, we would have called them Reagan Democrats. But now, they would rather be unenrolled because they think their party is controlled by unpatriotic, rich, radical elitists who don't welcome them anymore.